Hey, it's Kesha. Welcome and welcome back. Let us go ahead and center and then we'll get into the meat of the video. So let's close our eyes and deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. And just feel ourselves disconnecting from physicality and the worldly way and all the dramas and conditions and situations we find ourselves embroiled in. Any sense of worry, fear, trepidation. Just release all of that. And notice how with each breath, the internal chatter seems to lessen. With each breath, we draw in closer unto ourselves. Becoming more solid and aware of our personal power. And from this point, feel ourselves expand. Our Christed nature growing ever larger, brighter, more radiant. And when you feel yourself smile from the inside out, go ahead and close or open your eyes. All right, here we are. So this is a video I wasn't going to film, although it's a Monday and I was going to film something. So last week we ended our reading of Prosperity's 10 Commandments. And so I thought we would read this book called Mind Power. But I pulled the book down and I thought about it all last week and decided that it wasn't quite what I was ready to read. And so we weren't going to read it. Funny enough, though, when I sat down to film this video, I was going to still pull the book out to show you so that in case you wanted to read it, you would be able to, reference it. I think it's by Charles Roth, but I can't find the book. So maybe it felt my lack of interest in it and decided to put itself elsewhere because it is not amongst, there are 3 places it could be, or, and it's not any of those places. And it was nowhere else in between. So I had thought that we would read this book called Prosperity Now by Mary Katherine MacDougall. The thing is, as much as I like to read, and I kind of like, reading a little bit and we talk about it, I also feel like it's a little bit boring and maybe you want something else. But I also know that we're choosing books that aren't, very popular, so when else would you know of them if I don't point them out? Not that I'm the only one, but I happen to have them and I know they are of interest. So what I like about this book, and I'll just read you the table of contents and we'll talk about that. So it starts with, you are an heir. So this is something that I do when I'm trying to decide which book to read. I might go through the table of contents to try to glean what this book will be about. So when I read that, okay, so that's going to be a chapter. It's 8 pages. It's going to be telling us about how we are heirs to the kingdom. It is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. We should recognize ourselves as sons and daughters of God, heir to that kingdom, and know that just as our parents would be for us, we live in a loving and benevolent universe. God, as a loving parent, would provide us bread and not a stone if we were to ask, right? So that's what I get would be the gist of the chapter. I kind of feel like I'm done with that already. Economic invariables. Not sure what that's going to be about, but if I had to guess, it'll be, I don't know. I don't know what that would be about. That would be a chapter I'd probably read. The Wonderful Possible Now, that's probably going to be a chapter in my mind about how it doesn't make sense to spend your energy thinking about the past. 1, because it's already over and you can't change it. 2, you can't really do anything about the future or you can't forecast the future or put yourself in it because it hasn't happened yet. And the conditions you're going to meet when you get there, you'll need to meet them when you get there. So really the only time is now. And if we recognize now and in this moment that we are good, right? We have, we have everything we need in this particular moment. And if we really look, we probably have everything we need in abundance. And if we recognize that and can praise that in this particular moment, then that sets up future moments, right? So the only time we have is now. Be grateful in the now, and that sets up a beautiful future. And as concerns the past, we have the law of grace. I don't know that this book is necessarily going to get into that, but if I were reading it, that's what I would be expecting. If I were writing it, that's what I'd be talking about. As far as what concerns the past, I would say we have the law of grace, right? Which is divine intervention with our miscreations. And it raises us up out of the karma we created so that when it does come back, it restructures our miscreations. Divine intervention in the restructuring of our miscreations. So that when those effects do come back to us, we have been lifted up. And so they hit us not in the gut and we feel that pain, but maybe it touches the tips of our toes, right? Right. So that's how we deal with the past. So that's what I would expect that chapter to be about. Prosperity through partnership. The greatest partner you can have would be God. How do we engage with God and be a partner? That would be tithing. So if it's not a chapter about tithing, I'd be curious what else it would be about. But if I were reading it, if I were going to be reading this book, that's what I would expect it to be about. God is our greater partner and the benefits and the necessity of tithing. Prosperity through formulas. That's probably going to be denial and then affirmation, right? Prosperity through the open hand. We have to be open to receive. We can't give if our hands are clenched. If we're feeling like we're in lack, we have to relax, let go, and in order to receive. That's what I would be expecting that to be about. Prosperity through renewal. If I read that, I think, okay, what is the scripture? What is it? Is it Romans or Acts? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's what I expect this to be about. Prosperity through creativity, vision boards, right? Prosperity through the light touch. Sometimes we need to relax in our prayer. We can work, but there has to be an ebb and flow, right? That's the law of rhythm. So, there is the parable of the persistent woman, right? Where she keeps knocking on her neighbor's door and asking for bread, and she keeps being repeatedly told no, but eventually she gets the bread. And so there's something to be said for being persistent until you meet your aim. But there's also the prayer of the light touch, where we identify that which it is we want and what we seek, and we offer up a prayer. We ask to be receptive to it, and then we let it go, right? And let it come into our world without continually praying on it and drawing that string back to us. Prosperity through the expected and unexpected. To me, that speaks to, yes, we should praise our work, whatever it may be, however it is presented to us, and we present ourselves in it. That your work is a mighty channel for prosperity. So show up every day doing your best, giving your best, and we, in exchange for that, will receive, our salary or whatever payment is. But we should also expect the unexpected and to be prospered in unexpected ways, whether through gifts, inheritance, found money, blessings that we hadn't expected because it came through someone that we either knew or didn't know, or maybe we knew them but didn't have a great relationship with them, but somehow they bless us anyway. So just showing up fully in your world. The magic of increase. So that does actually sound like tithing. And if I were to flip through, that's probably what it's going to be about. But I'm just going by what I like. When I read through a table of contents, this is how I determine, is this something I want to be reading about? So the magic of increase. It could either be, giving greater and expecting to receive greater. That is the definition of the law of increase, or the magic of increase, meaning that it has to do with tithing, where, we give our 10% in partnership, recognizing our partnership with God, and in turn we receive greater than we have given. Or it could be, say, affirmations maybe about, when you pay a bill or when you buy something, rather than feeling, oh my God, I can't believe I just spent that much. Say to yourself and to the universe, I lovingly and gratefully accept 10 times this amount coming to me now easily and effortlessly through the wisdom and grace of the universe, or some derivation thereof, right? And so as you condition your mind, so then you're spending money in a joyful attitude, right? Because if you're not thinking about what you're spending and how little you think you have, but you're looking forward to that 10%, that exponential increase, then you're looking up and looking forward, and that is an invitation for greater prosperity to find you. And then prosperity can be permanent. I read that and I think, okay, we can go from good to greater good, right? I know for me, one of the things I'm working on is being able to learn my lessons without having to go through hardship. There's got to be other ways of learning. And so that's what I would be looking to read about if I were going to be reading this. My prosperity can be permanent as I maintain my faith in God and practice these principles on the regular. Consistency is key, blah, blah, blah. And so we've read the book, right? So, I feel like I've gotten enough out of it, right? Now, if I was interested in any of those topics, for instance, if I were going through something, and I needed to manifest money right now, and I just needed some guidance, because every time you have to or at least for me, every time I have to manifest money, it's a different set of conditions. So maybe the technique I tried before isn't working now, or I don't feel the same way about it, so I need something new, or I feel like I need to be thinking about the situation in a new way. That's when I would walk over to my bookshelf and feel out what book has what message for me. And so I look through the table of contents to see if there's something that speaks to the situation that I'm in. And so I don't necessarily read a whole book all the time. I might just pull from a chapter or two, like what I think I need in order to get through that particular moment. Or if I'm just feeling like I need some general inspiration, I might pull something down and just do a divine dip. And just open it to any page and read what's there and see if that has a message for me. So doing that just now, what my mind or what my eyes come to is, this I do for God. I do nothing for any person. God gives me my pay in expected and unexpected ways. I constantly look to God, not man, for my good. I give to man, God gives to me. And so I'd be like, yeah, right? And that's fitting for me in this moment, and maybe for you too if you're reading or watching this video. But I'm in a situation where the work that I do is great, but it's not fulfilling. It doesn't speak to the deeper part of me, and I don't feel like I'm doing enough. But it's paying some of the bills, and so we keep doing it, and I do my best every day. And I continue to ask God to be shown ways in which I can grow greater and move beyond this particular job. But I also know that, I am there to perform service, but I'm working for God. And so, yeah, I do get a paycheck from there, but God is the source of my supply. And so the job that I have now, it's irrelevant, because if I don't have this one, there'll be something else to replace it, whether it's another job or some other means by which God has for me. That is the expected and the unexpected. So yeah, a divine dip is always good. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this book. Now I will tell you, I have tried to read this before, I have picked it up at least once or twice because I see my handwriting in different colored inks, which means I've been looking at it. And so if I can find some, I didn't read the whole thing. And so if I can find some things that maybe I underlined, I'll share those with you because maybe those were important. But it would have been just from the very beginning, the parts about you being an heir. When we want prosperity, we do not love money or want it for itself. We want it because it is a necessary channel to the prosperous life we want and should have. Yeah, so the reason I would have underlined that is because it's not for the love of money. It's not that I want to sit and hoard it and count it. I mean, sometimes that's fun, but it's not really the reason. That's not the reason I'm interested in it. It's because I can do more with it. One, I can live a richer, fuller life, and for me that includes a fair amount of giving and philanthropy. But if, as I am living my life bigger and greater, then I'm a pattern for other people and a model for others. So if I can do it, they can do it. And so everything I do to uplift myself uplifts the whole. If I be lifted up, draw all men unto me. So it's not for money's sake itself. It's because if I am living my richest and fullest life, then there are so many ways in which I can touch other people because I am living, moving, and having my being in my best self. And it takes money to do that in this current world that we live in. I mean, we are in the world, but not of it. And recognizing that, you know, these bills got to get paid. And I like to have more than just enough to pay my bills. Watch your thoughts when you are handling your money. Because your money is attached through your mind to the one source of all substance. That goes back to the idea that I was talking about earlier. Like when you're in the store paying for something and you're feeling like, oh, I have just enough, or I'd hate to have to spend all this money on this thing right now. If you are actively saying, thank you, God, for 10 times that amount that comes to me easily and effortlessly through the wisdom and grace of the universe, then you're looking forward to that. And you're looking to God as the source of your supply. And so having that positive attitude when you're handling your money, you know, it comes back to you in a cheerful and loving way. When you begrudgingly spend your money, it begrudgingly comes to you. So that's just a little reminder to be aware of your thoughts when you're thinking about your money. Being thankful is the first blessing we must give our good. Whether it is money or something else, blessing increases and multiplies. Well, yes. I mean, you know, think about a little kid. If you praise something that they've done, they just shine, right? And think about how you feel when someone compliments something that you've done. You come alive at that. And whether consciously or unconsciously, you strive to do better and to do more because you got the good feeling of that compliment. And our money is no different. It responds to the vibrations that we send it. And it responds to the vibrations with which we send it out into the world. So be positive, be conscious when you are doing that. Let's see what else. Okay. Oh, supply always equals demand, our demand. This is God's principle. This is from the chapter on economic invariables. This is true. And if I stop to think about it, for every expense that I have had, expected and unexpected, I'm standing here today and they've all been paid. That is something that we need to remember when we're confronted with a bill that's unexpected or larger than usual or whatever it may be. You have met every financial obligation that has come into your world up until this point. There is no reason why the future should be any different. Because God is the source of your supply. So it's also good to think of it this way. So for instance, if you are in debt, right? You owe $20,000 on your credit card. That is $20,000 worth of faith and promise in your ability to have that money, right? Because energetically, you don't get contracted or you don't come into that contract unless the other party thinks that you are able to meet that obligation. That is faith and credit in you that you will be able to meet it. So rather than being fearful and fretful of the due date and the interest growing, know that you will meet that challenge in faith, right? And that just as you have paid every bill up until that point, you will continue to do so. Trust in God for your supply. There is a supply for every demand. We simply have to ask. And we have to also make room for it to come to us. And if we are stressful and fearful, frightful of quote unquote consequences, then, that frisson doesn't allow a clear path for money and those blessings to come to you. So when you can put your faith in God and trust in the universe as the source of your supply, rather than what you think is your obvious channel, whether that be work or alimony or, social security payment or something like that, then that will manifest for you. Let us continue. I think there was just a couple more because I remember seeing something in red. So let's see what that was. Just bear with me a moment. I would think I read just a little bit more of this. We invite disappointment when we expect certain things from certain people. Yes, right? So if I do something good for James, I expect something good in return. It doesn't have to come from James, right? So it's okay to expect something good in return for the actions that we are putting forth. We set up a cause in the way that we act, and we have an effect that we should expect, right? If we're using the law of increase, we are giving greater to receive greater, but it does not have to come back to us through the channel to which we have given. So this is on the next page. Everything we do for people, we should do for God and not for them. This helps us look to God for good. If we say silently as we help someone, I am not doing this for you, I am doing this for God, we are making it easy to look to God for any reward or return. Some people do this by thinking that when they help others, they are making a deposit in the universal bank in which they will be able to draw or make a withdrawal whenever there is a need. Others say that all they do is done for the glory of God. Whatever method you can devise to remind yourself that good is from God alone will be helpful. So yeah, that is giving and receiving. As I give, I shall receive, but it may not come from the exact channel to which I have given, or it may not be on the same channel through which I have given. And I think that was really all that that I had highlighted here. Yeah. So that is how I, pick out my books and, reason with them to help me meet whatever challenge is in front of me. If you all are interested in actually reading the book and seeing whether or not what I thought the chapters were going to be were actually that, we could certainly do it, but I kind of feel complete myself. I mean, yeah. I should just go ahead and tell you, so when I was looking for this, I tell you, I had my hands on this other book, Mind Power, and I did look at it and I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to read that. It doesn't really speak to the moment. But for whatever reason, it also encouraged me to look through the books, and I culled some off the shelf and put them. So this bookshelf that's behind me is all the books that are for sale. So they're things that I have read and worked through, and now I'm ready to release them out to the people. And so I probably put 15 books on the shelf, because something that I noticed is, at the time I bought the books, it was probably that I was in need of something, right? Or something about it spoke to me, because I don't usually just buy a title without having flipped through it first. And I kind of do that same thing where I'll read the table of contents or at least scan it and see if there's something in there that I think is going to speak to me. And if I think I see something, and then I'll do the divine dip thing and read a couple of pages. And I usually I'll ask the question, is this book something I need to read and have in my collection? And when I open it to that page and I read, if what I read speaks to me, then I'll be like, all right, yeah, I'll get that. But what I've noticed too is that over time, if I have, so I've gotten a book, but then maybe it sat on the shelf for a couple of years and I never actually got to reading it. But I've been through enough experiences, right, where I've had to meet my challenges, or I've shared some thoughts with someone and helped them through something or whatever, and then I go back and I look at the book and it's like, oh, I already have what it had to teach me in consciousness. I've already grown through that, and so I don't necessarily need the book anymore. And I'm never upset with myself that I spent the money on the book, because at the time that I got it, I know that it spoke to me and it was something that I needed. And sometimes just making that extension of myself and like recognizing that, buying the book and having it in my possession is enough. And then, I might not read it, but it's served its purpose. And so then I'm ready to release it. So a few of those got onto the shelf this last week. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of feel complete with this one. I'll put it on the shelf, and if somebody gets it, great. And if not, it'll be here if I ever want it back, or, if it doesn't go anywhere for a while and I look at it and decide, I do want to read that, I can always pull it back down off the shelf. But yeah, Prosperity Now. Mary Katherine MacDougall. Like I said, if you want to actually read it, let me know. We'll do that. If not, we'll just pick something else for Wednesday, and we'll see what that's going to be. All right, my good people. You all have a good night. I will see you on Wednesday, I think. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll see. But we'll do something. I'll see you then. Love you in the meantime. Bye.